Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I have another solo run for you. This time it is a solo flawless to Hell with Honor Elite. Now I know these solo videos are not the most popular content on the channel, but this is a challenge that I very much like to have for myself in the game, and I like to share it with those of you that also have an interest in this type of challenge. So I'm going to start off here by showing the raw footage of the run. Then afterwards, I'm going to go over and do some commentary on the strategy and approaches that I was specifically taking at various points of the run. And then at the end, I'm going to go through, take a look at the parse, and take a look at the build itself, which was a variant of my Delkina Plasma build. As always, chapters are listed down below.
Integrity below 50%.
Only a Takech like you would use a lackey to fight their battle. Let's go through the boat. Rest of them walk.
we go.
All loyal vessels. Victory is
Good chunk of marks there. I'm pretty sure that was basically all optionals. So there we go. Solo flawless to hell with honor. Hopefully you enjoyed. And now it's time for the commentary. So for to hell with honor here, I break this down into a couple different phases. The first phase is going around to all the shipyards, taking out the ships before they can start up and try to escape. The second phase is against the Lucara when it's at the center there. And then the third phase is when you're dealing with the reactors. And the final boss I would just consider as part of third phase because it spawns in right where one of the reactors is. And like the entire environment is basically the same. So I would say it's 3 phases, 4 if you want to count the boss as a different phase. So for the first phase, you want to be able to go around, take out the enemies at each of the shipyards as fast as possible. So for this, I was doing the alpha shipyard, then I would go to beta, delta, gamma, and epsilon. And this specific run was not the cleanest for how long it took at each of these areas, but you know the overall run ended up working out, so that's why it's getting uploaded. Some of those other attempts, I was just getting slammed with like misfires and stuff like that, which was just killer because a lot of my survivability here, as you'll see when I get to the parse, is from the Valdor console, and that relies on CSV working. And having CSV misfire in a lot of those runs was just killer, especially at the final boss phase. It was really frustrating. Okay, so for the first shipyard here, Alpha, I'm trying to position up a little bit above it. I overshot here, I feel, but I wanted to target one of the middle ships here and just try to hit these other ships with the AoE from the CSV. So this first phase it worked out, but it was a little bit slower than some of my prior attempts. There's probably a couple seconds that could have been cleaned up here. And there's a little bit of a delay for CSV to come back up there, as you saw. So it was about 19 seconds for the very first shipyard there. Then I immediately booked it over to beta. For beta, you'll notice at alpha I didn't use my Maelstrom. That's because I found it was better to save it for beta. So I would try to take out these front 3 ships here with my CSV, and then I would try to take out these 2 here with the Maelstrom. The Maelstrom did not always go for both of them though, and this happened to be one of the runs where the Maelstrom did not go for both of the back ones. It went for some of the other stuff instead. There's a lot of turrets around, and that causes the Maelstroms to have a lot of targets to potentially go after. And with me using Complex, when I saw that the target was starting to get low, I was able to run and move on to the next area. I'm using Deuterium Evasive to get between points as fast as possible, and of course the comp engine. For Delta here, I found that positioning on the, show this better, like right above this Mokai, that's a little bit elevated in the crater. Like getting above that and then targeting this back one here worked out quite well. In most of the runs, this positioning was able to clear out this group the fastest. In this run, however, there was a little bit of a slip up. This bird of prey here did not get targeted by CSV. So you see its health is pretty high there. I see that panic and go back to hit it again, but it had enough complex plasma fire procs on it that I could have just moved on. And because I took that swing back at that ship, I lost mobility halfway through towards Gamma, which caused a little bit of a delay. Now for Gamma here, the positioning that I found that worked was to sit above these battleships that are in the crater and point the ship towards these 2 holes here. And then I would target manually. I would manually click on these 2 battle cruisers that were on the other side through those holes. And by doing that, I found I was able to get a lot of the other ships with CSV. And this ended up being just the most optimal positioning that I found while trying things out here. So I took one out, then I targeted the other, got it out, and all the other ships died along the way from the CSV. Then I head over to Epsilon. Epsilon was the one that was the most tricky. I had the most ships escape from here during the attempts I did. That was just because the order of stuff that I was going, or the order in which I was going to things. Epsilon's last, so of course ships have the most time to try and escape. But I want to get a Maelstrom one into these bird of prey as soon as possible. So positioning just to try and hit them. Then I back up. I'm hitting the bird of prey there, and just positioning where you saw me here. Like where you're a little bit off from this center bit here. This ended up working out very well. CSV was able to hit basically everything. And that's phase 1 done, like a minute 50 in. Now you have to be careful as you go to the Lucara. There's a bunch of these turrets on the ground, and they got like photon torps on them for some of them, and they do slam you pretty hard. So for the Lucara here, I popped Lure Team Command to try and knock her shields offline. I popped a Gravel to suck all the other ships in close. You can't kill the Lucara here. The Lucara will disappear when it hits around 20% HP, and then it'll move you to the next part, or take you to the next phase of the map, basically. So I'm just focusing the Lucara. I did hit PFP, Protomatter Field Projector, for survivability, and just DPSing the Lucara. When I used the Lure Team Command console, once I saw that it knocks shields offline, that's when I tried to time the Maelstrom Torps. And when I see the Lucara's quickly getting towards 20, I just head over towards the first reactor here, which is basically the start of phase 3. And instead of waiting for the reactor, I've decided to click on one of the cannons that will be next to where the reactor is and drop a Tachyon net drone on it. So I can't use this at each of the reactors, but getting this here this early on, this allows me to have it down and available to use again at the final reactor. And I want to be able to get through this reactor as fast as possible so that I have more time for the later ones that are a bit more difficult. So the Tachyon net drones, I hit it before the reactor spawned in, and that means that the reactor can lose its shields very quickly when it does appear. And you see, I get a crit on it. It just lost its shields. And I slam it with a Maelstrom TS3. The Maelstrom basically took out half of its health. I didn't have every buff running there. Otherwise, I probably would have been able to have just taken it out in one go. The first reactor ended up having 11 ships spawn through. The best run I had 7 ships get through on the first reactor. But this one ended up being 11, which seemed to be the most common for the runs I was trying. Then just clear out these Alachi ships here, and as soon as you got them cleared out, move on to the next area. So for the second reactor here, I used the Lure Team Command Console. That's the one off the Gorn Hunter. And I use that against it because that'll send a shuttle over to it. When that shuttle lands, you'll see a blue glow around the reactor or whatever your target is. And if you get close, it knocks shields offline. So these reactors have the shield generators around them that Cryptic wants you to go and take out. But you can just ignore that by knocking the shields offline on the reactor, or just having enough raw DPS to just kill it through shield pen. So, Lure Team Command is active. You'll see that it lights up blue here in a moment. There we go. You see it's lit up blue from Lure Team Command. I get close. Its shields are knocked offline. I slam it with a Maelstrom TS3, and it's done. So I'm ignoring the shield generators that Cryptic has over there and just killing it with the shield shutdowns and just the raw DPS. And remember, Complex Plasma Fires is a 100% shield pen dot. That's one of the things that makes it so good in this elite environment. And no, I don't think Complex is overpowered. I think in just really long duration fights, which are pretty rare in the game, it exceeds because it has time to actually stack up. But if you're trying it in most content in the game, your targets are dead before you have more than a handful of stacks. So I'm heading over to Delta now. At this reactor, I have a lot of abilities available, but I'm trying to not hit them. I know that the final reactor is going to be a pain, and I know that I want to have as many things available for that final reactor as possible. So thankfully I was able to just take it out with raw deeps from the cannons and complex, and then I just clear out the Alachi here, and then I move on to the final reactor. Now for this final reactor, very important, especially if you're solo, to get behind it, so that you're flanking it and flanking all of the Alachi that it spawns in. You don't want to take these guys head on because they will screw you up. So I'm using Tachyon Netrons again here on the reactor, knocked its shields offline, and by being able to take it out fast because its shields are offline, when the boss drops in after the reactor's taken out, it should land in the Tachyon Netrons as well and have its shields knocked offline also. So I just took out that reactor real quick. I'm clearing out some of the Alachi, but I'm not getting too aggressive because I know that boss is going to drop in, and I don't want the boss to ruin the run for me. Want to stay in optimal position here against this boss. You see it dropped in. Its shields are offline already because of the Tachyon Netrons console. Shields are back up on it now. I didn't get that Maelstrom in it, unfortunately, but its shields drop again, and it just dies very fast. Because it dropped into the Tachyon Netrons, which is not only a shield, not only does Tachyon Netrons, knock the shields offline, it also is a debuff. And then it's just a matter of clearing out the rest of the enemies here. And against that final boss, you saw that I burnt like all my survivability stuff, the Cyclone console, everything. And that was pretty much it. So I had the leave map now button show up at right around 6:30 in, and the combat log will be a couple seconds longer because of the turrets shooting the Elachi and all that, but that was pretty fast, but I think it could be faster. I clearly lost a bit of time on phase 1, especially around the Delta shipyard and the Delta to Gamma transition. That was very slow. That could have easily been, I'd say, 10, maybe 15 seconds faster with better positioning, and the Alpha was a little bit slow also. So could shave a little bit of time off there. The Lucara, I feel that went fine, and the reactors here, I felt they went fine too. I think a sub 6 minute run is possible solo. And Spencer from the future here, a sub 6 minute run is definitely possible, but there's something that I need to pick up for me to get to that time down, and that is the legendary TOS Starfleet Captain bundle, which has the legendary Miranda. The one big happy fleet trait from that gives you a lot of shield pen over time. So that trade will certainly help out. I'm just waiting for a good sale for it. I've got the Zen. I mean, I could buy it right now if I wanted, but I'm just waiting for that bundle to go on a good sale before I pick it up, because that trait with the amount of shield pen that gives you for energy weapons, that should be pretty beneficial in an environment like the Hell with Honor, and I do think would allow for an under 6 minute run to happen. And now it's time to take a look at the build. The first thing I want to mention, of course, is that I am running with max space endeavors. So if you're a brand new player or someone just returning to the game trying to mimic this build, keep in mind that the footage you just saw was done with maxed out endeavors, which are pretty significant for what they give to you performance-wise. Now, for the build here, this is, of course, a variant of the Delkina. Delkina is my favorite ship right now. I think it's one of the best ships in STO. It's just very versatile and has a very high level of survivability with how the current game meta is. So this is a plasma setup, of course, wide arc Viridian plus the Viridian plasma dual heavy cannons. You can run whatever plasma variant you want. I run these because I like the red bolts that they fire. The 2.5% chance on these for the firing cycle haste literally doesn't matter. Like every other 2.5% proc in the game, you may get it to go off a handful of times in a run, but doesn't really have much impact. Of course, I've got the Maelstrom Quantum Torp on as well. All weapons still spec to crit D damage on the Epic mod, damage for everything else. The Lobi Plasmatic Biomatter Auto Turret. The Viridian Plasma Turret. For the experimental weapon, of course, it's the Plasma Incendiary Bombard off the Gorn Hunter. Deflector is the Colony one with it's the intervention variant that has the shield pen and weapon specialization on it. Then I've got comp engines, the innervated versions, and then Disco Rep Orange Shield. Devices, same as normal. Temporal Negotiator, Advanced Energy Amplifier Battery, Kobayashi Maru Transponder for the buffs it can provide, Deuterium Surplus for the speed boost, and Subspace Field Mod for a little bit of survivability at various points of the run. 6 Plasma Isomags. Lure Team Command, of course, off the Gorn Hunter. Really good passives, and also a really good clicky. PFP off the Lucari Hokun for the survivability. The Sensor Phantom Projector off of the C-Store Cyclone for the survivability, and also the passives, which were beneficial with the amount of flanking I had. The Valdor Console Shield Absorptive Frequency Generator, which was absolutely essential to my survivability. Tachyon Netrons off the C-Store Bozeman, for the reasons I talked about in the strategy breakdown. Just really good for the clicky, and even the passives on them are pretty good. The Fakiri Torment Engine from one of the Klingon Arc story missions, pretty good for a plasma setup like this. And then DPRM for the survivability. For the pets, I just ran the rare Todouche Fighter Squadrons because I was running SAD here, so these perform well with SAD. For the skill tree here, or for specs, it's Intel primary, Temporal Ops secondary. Space tree is the default one that I run. So the first engine node is battery expertise, so that your batteries are up for twice the duration. Sector space, travel speed, max shield cap, hanger weaponry, projectile crit chance, energy crit chance, +2 AC, and then all of the Hack items. For the traits here, personal, a good day to die, adaptive offensive, intelligent attaché, fragment of AI tech, uncon, kinetic precision, so that the maelstrom had a little bit more impact with how much shields the enemies in this TFO have. Self mod for the shield pen that has, Terran targeting for the crit sev, whole lot of X's for the survivability that trait offers. Intense focus for the 6% shield pen that can get you over time. And the Boimler effect for some redundancy for cooldown reduction. Starship traits, EWC, Withering Barrage, because it's CSV build. Complex, of course, because it's a plasma setup. Cold Hearted, because I am running Nox to Bat. And that is a really good debuff. With that stacking up to 5 times, that is minus 50 resistance for everything I'm shooting at. Pretty damn impactful. Sad for buffing the pets and also the minus 30 damage resistance debuff that has also. So between that and Cold Hearted, that's minus 80 debuff. Then add in my beta 1, that's 110. The Ruin of Our Enemies. I didn't want to run this, but I gave it a go in an attempt and saw that it was staying at like 100 stacks pretty early on in the run and then staying there the entire time. And it's pretty hard to ignore, the impact that 300% Cat 2 has, so I did leave that on here. I try to do these without having it on, just so it's a bit more of a reasonable build for people to be able to set up. Ruin is a very expensive trait to get. It's off the promo Miracle Worker D7, so that's like a 1.7 bill. But unfortunately here, it was very impactful. And then Terran Goodbye for the crit chance. If I had that one big happy fleet trait from the legendary Miranda, I would have either dropped Sad or Terran Goodbye. Probably Terran Goodbye, to be honest, because that debuff would be very helpful. Space Reps, advanced targeting for the crit sev, enhanced shield pen for the do shield pen, energy refrequencer for the healing, precision for the crit chance, and Tyler's duality for the crit chance also. Stations wise, the change up here is that I'm running a Lieutenant Commander Psi. So Viral Impulse Burst 1, EMP Probe, both of those for Uncon. Gravwell 1 for some control and Uncon. The Ensign's EPTE 1. The Lieutenant Commander Inge is EPTW 1, Ox to Bat 1 and 2. For the Commander Attack, Distributed Targeting 1, Beta 1, Corpse Spread 3, CSV 3. Beam Overload 1 then on Lieutenant, that is for the Comp Engine proc. And then Chemocyte 2 for the damage that does. Duty Officer wise, Emergency Con Hologram from the Phoenix, Agent Isle from the Delta Operations Expansion Pack. There is one of the Prodigy Doffs that is half as effective as this, but I think you can live without this off if you want to run something else. The Nikul Doffs might work as a substitute. Have any of those on me? Let me check. Yeah, right here. These Nikul Doffs you can pick up pretty cheap usually. These have a chance when you activate TAC and your Psi abilities to give you some healing based on your outgoing damage. So if you don't have Agent Iol or the Federation version Agent Nerul, maybe check out some of the Nikul Doffs. Those are Space Warfare Specialist. Then I have 3 Oxtabat Tech Doffs on, and then Tyheth, which is the KDF version of Kiel. That is a debuff removal every time you hit EPTX abilities, basically. And I think that is pretty much it for the build itself. Weapon, or the power levels, of course, max weapons, Restant Ox, shield power doesn't matter. And Ox power, well, I'm running Ox to Bat, so it's already screwed. And let's take a look at the parse now. So overall DPS was 691k, total damage 274 million. And damage in just under 3.1, and the total healing was 10.2 mil. So for the main overview here, the plasma cannons, of course, came out on top. Complex was the second highest damage source. Maelstrom here ended up being the 4th line. The wide arc did pretty well on their own. So it's one wide arc and then 3 of these dual heavies. So the wide arc had a bit better uptime than the other 3 dual heavies had. The plasmatic biomatter auto defense turret did pretty well. It beat out the Viridian. The plasma incendiary bombard didn't actually do much damage in this one, but it still did well. Basically another turret here. The Fat Carry Torment console did about half of a turret. The Lure Team console did okay, and then everything else here existed. Pet-wise, the Toadoosh Fighter Squadron did 5k DPS, so basically nothing in the grand scheme of things. The only reason I ran sad is for the debuff, essentially, because the pets on a single hangar base ship like this, like I've said before, just generally don't perform that well. I do wish the Delkina could run the Romulan drone ships, so from the Scimitar, that'd be really nice. That would help the pet situation on the Delkina massively. Healing wise, the Valdor console, the Shield Absorptor Frequency Generator, did 24.3k shield healing per second. So almost all of my healing came from that console. Then Energy Refrequencer gave me 765 healing per second to my hull. The Shield Distribution Officer, that Agent Iol, did another 385 hull healing per second. Most of the hull healing I had came from DPRM and Protomatter, which, because they're regen, don't show up on a parse. So the only thing that's going to show up on SCM for hull healing is the things that are actually just, giving you plus HP. Whereas DPRM and Protomatter, those are plus regen, which is just increasing your natural regen. So I think that's everything basically here. What was my crit chance? So I was in the mid 80s for crit chance. Could have been higher. Flanking was low to mid 20s on the things that mattered. So that could have been better, but overall, I think it was good, but like I said, I think some time could be shaved off, and whenever Cryptic does a good sale on that legendary Miranda, I'm picking that thing up, and I'll give this another go and see if I can get it done a bit faster. So that's going to be it for today. As always, thank you to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. Hopefully you enjoyed, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them down below. See you guys around.